Hello, welcome to the Booktube Chicks Book Club live discussion for February. My name is Chloe, you're on my channel, and tonight we're going to be talking about By the Book by Jasmine Guillory. If you've never been to one of our live shows before, the way it's going to work is I'm going to let my co host introduce herself, and we're going to do our initial thoughts for the first couple of minutes that are spoiler free, and then we're going to go into full spoiler discussion for the next 30 minutes or so. So, if you want to go ahead and start, and you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kathleen. My channel is for the love of books. Um, I quite actually enjoyed this book. I mostly listened to the audiobook, and I think my rating partly has to do with the narrator. I wasn't truly crazy about the narrator. I gave this book 3.5 stars. I believe this was a Beauty and the Beast sort of like modern retelling, and I enjoyed some aspects of like the fairy tale retelling that this book has, but I felt like it didn't have like the same magical vibes of Beauty and the Beast. That's just how I felt. I feel like maybe the movie, like the animation just felt differently, in the way that I saw the characters in the animation felt differently as how I read or listened to these characters. Um, for example, Beast, I didn't technically like him in the book, and I don't feel any particular way over Beast in the animation. And Belle, as far as Belle, I wasn't also crazy about her in the book. I actually thought in some ways she felt very immature to me, like very childish. And so I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars. I like Beauty and the Beast. It is one of my favorite Disney movies. But this one just kind of didn't have the magic that the Beauty and the Beast Disney animation had. So that's my reason for my rating, and I do feel like the narrator just contributed to me not really connecting with the characters in the book. I feel like she added, especially towards the main character. What was her name? The one that's Belle.
I think they called her Izzy, but her full name is Isabel.
Right, yes, Izzy. I felt like she just read very immature, and I think that was more of a narrator, not necessarily the way the writer wrote her. But so it's just for me, it was just 3.5 stars. I did enjoy the story though; the plot was very engaging, and I wanted to keep reading it. It's just that the characters just didn't really, I didn't really vibe with them.
Yeah, so the only book in this series that I have read, which they're not connected series, is the first one, which was by Julie Murphy. It was a Cinderella retelling, and I remember when this project was first announced because I love the concept of taking these Disney stories and modernizing them into adult rom-coms. I love that. So I've been wanting to read this book since it came out, like 3 years ago. Um, and overall, I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Um, I do agree. The narrator, I didn't like how she did the male voice for Bo. So that was a little bit of a turnoff, but it didn't really affect my rating of the story overall. Jasmine Guillory is an author that I am familiar with. I have read, I think, all of her books now. And um, Overall, I enjoyed it. I liked the tie-ins to Beauty and the Beast. Some of them maybe didn't work for me fully, where some of them I wish, or some things that were in Beauty and the Beast I wish we saw in this, or maybe if there was a small connection I maybe didn't pick up on it. Um, but yeah, overall, I gave it 4 stars. And let's go ahead and talk spoilers, I guess. This isn't a spoiler, but this is the question I was going to ask you before. I was like, let me save it for the live show. The one that's coming out in a couple of months is worth fighting for, and it's a Mulan retelling. And I know Mulan is your favorite, so do you think you would read that? You're on mute.
Sorry. Yes, I would read it. Like I said, I liked the story. I really do think it's just a narrator that kind
Yeah.
of ruined the voice of the characters for me.
Mhm.
And um But yeah, I would read it. I also feel like she took very a loose interpretation of
Yeah.
obviously the fairy tales, and it's not supposed to be a direct retelling. And I'm okay with that. There were some parts that I was like, okay, I feel like she could have. It didn't flow with like
Mhm.
as it did with the animation. But I would read it. And what was the first one? Cinderella.
The first one was Cinderella. If I'm remembering correctly, I think I read that one as an arc. But if I'm remembering correctly, it is the main character is going to be a contestant on a bachelor style reality show that's actually produced by her stepmother.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm pretty sure that's what that one's about. The next one is Little Mermaid retelling called Kiss the Girl. I have not read that one yet, but I'm very excited because Little Mermaid is my favorite. And then Christina Lauren, who is a very popular romance author that I've enjoyed a lot of work from, they did a Tangled one called Tangled Up in You, and it came out last year. So
Is it all
hopefully,
different authors or is it
yeah,
just oh, it's all different authors. Okay.
yeah, and I like that they're doing that. It's kind of similar to the Twisted Tales books. Um, the Twisted Tales books have repeat authors throughout their series, but I so far all of these have been different. And I don't know if it's going to continue after the Mulan one, but I kind of hope it does because I just want to see where they can take it. Um, and I mean, they're not very long books, and
No.
I I don't know, I like them, but I'm a romance girly, continuously
Yeah.
trying to get you into your romance girly.
I did like that this one kind of dabbled into like publishing and I mean
Yeah.
and how people in the who work in publishing how they motivate their authors to write and
Mhm.
especially one that is going through maybe like a writing slump kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that I like reading books about writers to an extent. The Finley Donovan books are like that, and there's a thriller that I read that is about that called The Writing Retreat. I feel like maybe
Hmm.
you'll have you read that one?
I haven't read it, but I have the book.
It's on your radar.
Yeah.
That one was interesting too, although that one took a thriller take to it. Um,
uh,
I'm gonna be honest, I don't have a lot of notes for this book because I finished it yesterday, so we're just here for the vibes.
so is the bad employee, like her
Mhm.
coworker, the one that kind of sabotaged her, like not to her face, but everybody else saw that he was sabotaging her. Is he supposed to be oh God, what was his name?
Gaston?
Gaston, yes. Is he supposed to be Gaston?
I could see him as being a Gaston, but it wasn't as heavy on the Gastonness as
Right?
yeah. Okay,
I
so
guess Gaston was also in love with Belle, and we didn't really get that vibe in the book.
yeah. And even some like there were some small nods, like in Beauty and the Beast, her father's name is Maurice, and that was
Mm.
the other publisher. Um, I don't know who Marta could be. What was the assistant's name? Michaela? I think her name was Michaela. And I don't know who she could be either.
Wait, his assistant?
Yeah, his assistant.
I thought I thought she was gonna be the Mrs. The teapot.
Okay, yeah, Mrs. Potts. I can see that.
That's who I thought, but then I was like, "Where's the little teacup?"
Well, she
Like
said she
I
had a kid, so I guess that could kind of be
and I
kind of
feel like there wasn't any like the butler guy, the clock.
yes. I don't think Cogsworth or Lumiere
Yeah.
were like if they were represented, it was probably in a small way, not in a large way to make it really noticeable. Um,
Yeah, and her boss, I don't know who she would have represented in the I feel like yes, it's a retelling, but I feel like a lot of the main prominent characters from the Disney movie were not just kind of
yeah,
like not big in this book at all. It was mainly focusing on Beauty and the Beast. So
yeah, like very loose retellings.
one
Um,
thing, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. I didn't have
I was gonna mention at the end, I did appreciate that they changed his hair. like she mentions how he cut his hair or did something with his
Mhm.
hair, because at the end of the Disney movie, when he turns back into a
He
human, his
transforms.
yeah, his hair is like long and luscious and pretty.
Um, where was I gonna go with that? I wanna know well, okay, scratch that. I will say when I was listening to it at the beginning, when he was like, "Fine, just, stay here and motivate and read and everything," I was like, "That's kind of a little cringy."
Same. I thought that too. I was like, in the movie, we keep comparing it to the movie, but it's supposed to be a retelling. In the movie, she's has to stay because
Mhm.
of her dad. She has to stay.
Yeah.
And then this is more like a challenge, and I feel like there wasn't. It just felt forced. I'm like,
Mhm.
fine, you could stay. Motivate me, whatever. I was like,
That's
I,
weird.
f- I feel, it was just a weird way to make her stay.
Mhm.
It was just I don't know, I agree, it was a little cringy.
Yeah. I am happy, however, this is not related to the plot. I am happy that this book finally broke my I feel like it's almost been a year-long streak of less than 4-star reviews for book club books. I
When
think
was when
the
was the
last
last time you gave a 4 to a book club book?
to one of for this book club, the last time I gave a 4 was May of last year when we read You're Invited.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow, okay.
And because last month I gave the book a 1, and all of 2024 from May until the end of 2024, I didn't have any 4 or 5 stars. It was like less. So I am happy that this finally broke that.
And it was a good book. I feel like there should have been a little bit more substance, and I feel like maybe we should have added a few more things to the retelling, but it was a good book. I like the story of it, especially with the whole, he's writing a book. He's a famous person. He's writing a book, and she's there to motivate him to write a book.
So towards the end when um they were talking about like they kept extending her time
Hmm.
to be there, and I was just like, how will they keep extending it by like another month? Another month. Like there's gotta be a point where this is not realistic. And her boss has got to be like, "No, we need her back." Like,
I mean, obviously the author would know, but I wonder if that's realistic. Do these like people who are working directly with the authors, do they just go to obviously not stay at the person's house, maybe in a hotel
yeah.
near, but they just stay there for months and months on end trying to get this person to write their book.
Yeah, and I mean, I get that it was like a multi-million dollar contract for his memoir, but it's like there's got to be a point where you're just like, "All right, we're going to scrap this. We're just going to call it."
Yeah, and yeah, and her boss was pretty. I feel like she was pretty cool about it, like
Yeah.
dropping everything else. I mean, I guess she could work from her laptop, but like mostly focusing on him.
I like that at the end it turned out that Marta wasn't really as much of a shitty boss as it was kind of made out to be.
Yeah, and it turns out it was her worker who was supposedly on her side or
Yeah.
whatever, her coworker.
Um, hmm.
And I felt like her parents were kind of like useless in a book.
Yeah.
They kind of mention her like sending them messages, be like, "Hey, I'm okay, I'm okay," and then they just be like, "Hey, good job, you do you," whatever. They've been encouraging, and I'm just like, I feel like it was just filler moments of her
Yeah, I
texting
can
her
see that.
parents, and I'm just like, I don't see really the point of her parents being in the book if they're just gonna be like text messages of encouragement, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree. Um, just to have them kind of in the background, like we didn't really they're very, very one-dimensional characters because we only really saw them in text. I did like how at the end, and I kind of was thinking about this before it happened, how the dad was like, "So does this mean you're gonna move out now?" Like every
I
time
was
she would
like, damn.
every time she would send them a text and they'd be like, "Yep, keep doing good things, blah blah blah, whatever." I'm just like, they are so happy to have their house to themselves, I bet.
Also, at the end, when Michaela goes like, "I didn't really twist my ankle at the beginning." I'm like, "No, duh." It was so obvious. Maybe it was obvious to every reader, but the character. But I'm just like, it was so obvious you did not twist your ankle.
I kind of didn't even really think about it in the moment because I was just like, "Oh, well, that's how she's gonna go back into the house." But then, like after after her saying like, "I didn't really twist my ankle," and then thinking about it, I was like, "Yeah, I can see that." But in the moment, I wasn't really thinking about it. I saw this video today. I think I saw it on Instagram. That was like, I'm a read for the vibes kind of person. Is there a plot hole? Well, it has to be like a crater for me to actually notice it. And I feel like that's me with high fantasy. It like people
Same. This
my
is
friend
why I can never like read books like Marines, because when I read it, I just read it and I don't think about the gigantic plot hole that's right in front of me, and I don't see it like she does.
yeah, and I mean, I guess if it's something that I'm like really focused on or I'm trying to find things like that, then I do. But with high fantasy especially, like with my group at work, they'll be like, "Oh, do you remember blah 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 this from Fourth Wing or whatever?" I'll be like, "No." Like, "Nope, didn't see that coming." Oh, okay. No, didn't see that coming. Oh, there's a plot hole. No, I read for the vibes.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Do you think you would read anything else from Jasmine Guillory as
Yeah,
as an intro to romance?
she is. She's a very like beginner friendly romance writer, like someone who's starting to get into romance. I think she's very like for the beginners kind of.
And this series too, I was actually thinking about it before, but like when I was like halfway through the book, I was like, this is a Disney owned publisher. Yes, this is an adult romance, but there is going to be no fucking in this book.
Same. I was like, I was like, when they were getting to the scene, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh God, gotta get my like
No,
my forward button ready.
no.
And then it just kept it faded to black, and I was
Yeah,
like, oh, okay.
which is fine.
I was not expecting that.
Her other books don't fade to black, I don't think, but they're not like explicit. But this I was fully expecting it because it's a Disney. I was like, they probably were like, no sex. Um, uh and there was a review there was a review I saw on Goodreads. It was a one-star review. And I can't remember what the whole thing said, but the last line was no sex. But that's okay. There's different there's different levels of the door being open.
Right, yeah. But I think I feel like if there was some kind of explicit scene, I feel like it would have taken away from the book, because the book reads very um fairy tale. Like
Yeah.
it reads very like innocent, and it reads
Mhm.
like falling in love for the first time. It doesn't read very like heavy adult,
Yes.
getting heavy, hot and heavy kind of thing. So I think that if there was a sex scene, I feel like it would detract from the story.
I'm kind of curious specifically for the Tangled one by Christina Lauren because they write different levels of steam. Um, but I feel like before they wrote the majority of their romance books, they did have like an erotica series that came out that I've read one book from. And then all their other books have varying levels. So I'm kind of interested to see how that one is, or if Disney also put the no sex label on that book as well. But now I have to read them all to find out.
So wait, so you said there's four books from this series out, or there's three and there's a fourth one coming out?
There's 4 and there's a 5th one coming out.
Okay. Okay.
So we have Cinderella first, then this one, then The Little Mermaid, then the Tangled one, and then the one
Okay.
coming out is Mulan.
Okay.
I did try to do some like research yesterday to see if there was any information on the next one or the one after Mulan, if there is anything, and there is not. However, the Mulan one, I'm pretty sure I have to double check and see if it's the right author that I'm thinking of, but you've definitely read from the author before. Oh, no, you haven't. Okay, for some reason I was thinking it was Elizabeth Lim that wrote it, but no, it's Jessie Kusutanto who is writing the Mulan one, which Jessie Kusutanto writes in a variety of genres. She's done romance and mystery and middle grade, and I think fantasy as well. So I like her work, so I'm definitely interested. The only one that I haven't read from the author is For Kiss the Girl. It's written by Zoraida Cordova, and I've never read anything from that author.
Okay.
I don't think. No, I haven't read any of these. Anyway.
So since you are a writer or an aspiring author, did you find her tips for writing helpful? I guess you would have to put yourself in, like, if I was in a writing slump. I don't know if you've ever been yourself in a writing slump like he is, like he was. Would you find, if you were, would you find her tips helpful?
I mean, the thing is with him, his issues spanned from familial issues and depression, whereas mine just span from a lack of motivation. So everybody says, like, you need to write a little bit every single day, and that was the one tip that I remember that she said. And when I was in Atlanta, I went to the Bryn Weaver signing and talk, and she had said that she has written every single day for like the past, I don't even know how many years she said. And she said, even if I'm feeling sick, if I just write like one sentence, it's still writing something. So, I mean, I try and follow that. I don't. And it really just depends on what I'm working on in the moment. If I'm so let's see. I've drafted 2 full books and I've drafted a novella before. And out of all of those, if I'm doing the first draft where I'm actively writing it, if I'm motivated enough, I will write every day. But like with the one I was actually just working on, I finished it kind of yesterday. I'm doing a second draft on it. And I was kind of going through and just fixing some mistakes or changing some things here and there, but I wasn't like actively writing the story. So I've only touched it like once every other week for the past month. So I don't listen to her advice, basically, is where I go. I don't listen to my own advice, which I don't have any advice. So,
Okay, second question.
okay.
If you had someone like her living with you, trying to encourage you to write, would you find her helpful or annoying?
I mean, I personally wouldn't want it. I think it would be annoying.
I feel like sometimes she, like, if it was me, I feel like sometimes she came off more as like a cheerleader rather than like a
Yeah.
helpful, useful tool for my writing there. And so she, like, some of her like pep talk kind of did kind of grate on my nerves, and I was just like, if she was here, I would be so annoyed. I would just cancel the contract with the publisher.
I'm glad that they kind of found a balance and that she started writing too. But yeah, I like, if I
I
need
al-
a cheerleader, I'll ask for a
I also did appreciate that she kept the library sacred for their work. So she was like, no kissing, no touching in the
Mhm.
library, just work. And I was like, okay, that's good. Put some boundaries because you guys gotta get work done. And I appreciate that you guys are getting closer, but sometimes you just gotta, focus on your work.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't really have much else to say. It's for me, and I think this happens to a lot of people who read a lot. Sometimes if you'll read a book, set it down like when you finish it and just immediately forget everything. This is probably going to be one of those books, which is no hate on Jasmine Guillory. I love
Yeah.
Jasmine Guillory, but I read a lot and
This
like,
is why I read as close to the live show date as possible.
yeah. I've been like towing the line the past 2 months. romance. Because I was like, on Thursday, I think it was, because I was also buddy reading Scythe and Sparrow with a couple of people, and I was like the last one to start, one of the last ones to start. And part of that was because of being out of town. But on Thursday, I was like, okay, Chloe, you're going to listen to a little bit of Scythe and Sparrow just to get through it this morning, and then you're going to listen to your book club book. I listened to Scythe and Sparrow all day. I finished it that night. I literally just, it was like I took this book and I just kicked it to the side, did not touch it. So that's why when I'm like, on Friday, I was like, oh, you got to hustle. You got to hustle and get through it. Which it's not that it was bad. It's just like I really got into Scythe and Sparrow.
I mean, yeah, you also want to read other things that
Yeah.
you really want to read.
Let me tell you this. Like, this has nothing to do with this book, but I just feel so free right now because leading up to Love Y'all, I was trying to read a bunch of books by authors that were going to be there. And
Did you end up reading them, by the way?
I read all except for like 2 or 3.
Okay.
So for the ones that I didn't get to, I met the author and I got like a book plate signed. And there was one that I was actually listening to while we were in Georgia, and I got like 30 to 40% through the book, and I was like, I'm not very interested, so I decided not to meet that author.
Okay.
But I feel so free that I'm like, I don't need to focus on that anymore. I can just read my book club books, read whatever the hell I want. It feels fantastic. So I'm working on like some library books that have just been piling up. So yeah.
How many books at once do you read? Because for me, I cannot focus on more than one book, otherwise I'll get the stories mixed up. But
so I try to not do more than 2, which I tend to have an audiobook and an ebook, which is what's happening right now. And if I do that, I try and get them to be, if they can be different genres, that's great. But the problem is I read a lot of romance, so it doesn't always happen. So right now I have an ebook that's a romance and I have an audiobook that's a memoir. It has gotten to recently where I am reading like 4 at a time. And
Jesus, how do you keep track?
I don't like it. And the problem is it's because like maybe it's for this book club, because I do this book club, I do a bonus book club, and I have
Right.
my book club at work. And that's just a complete work program that's for my job. And then like my friends at work, they like to do buddy reads, so we're going to be buddy reading The Hunger Games coming up. So I know then I'm probably going to be reading like 2 or 3 books at the same time. I don't like it. I try not to do it. Unfortunately, sometimes it happens. So recently it's been happening more. But I feel a lot better now with only 2.
Just remember to learn from Desiree. Don't pile too much on your plate.
No, I'm doing okay. So yeah.
I think that was it. I think that's all my questions.
Yeah, I think overall this was a good book. I will forget about it 2 books from now, but overall I enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. And I love Jasmine Guillory. I really enjoy this series and I'm excited to read the rest.
Yeah. I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. I think my issue is I wished it was a little bit more like the Disney movie. It was kind of like the Disney movie was sprinkled into the book. There wasn't a lot of similarities between the book and the movie. It's supposed to be a modern retelling, but it was very, very loose modern retelling. But I enjoyed the story. The characters I didn't really connect with, hence my rating of 3.5 stars.
Okay. So the book we're reading next month is Natalie Tan's Book of Luck and Fortune by Roselle Lim. I was just reading the back to see if it gives romance vibes, but I don't think it's a romance. Goodreads did have it listed as a romance, but I don't think I believe that. I think it's more of like a family general fiction, maybe a women's fiction, but we'll see. We're going to read it and we're going to find out. We're going to be talking about this book on March 30th at 7 p.m. on this channel. Excuse me. So make sure you follow us on Instagram at Booktube Chicks for everything related to the different live shows that we're doing. So we'll be talking about this for book club. And then if you like live reading or reading with friends, you can join us on March 14th on Cat's channel, which is linked in the description below, at 8 p.m. Eastern for Pages and Pals, a monthly live read-in. Whatever we're currently reading, we just bring it with us, and we have an hour of silent reading time. And then quarterly romance is not happening right now, so it'll happen in a month or two. So yeah, if you're interested in talking about Natalie Tan's Book of Luck and Fortune with us, make sure to join us on March 30th, and we will see you all next time. Bye.